Hello BookTube, hello Tudorverse. Tudortember has begun. This is an annual event started 5 years ago by Bookish Travels and Lil's Vintage World, and I will be participating over the course of the next month. I've got my plans now. I'm going to be posting 2 videos a week on Mondays and Thursdays. So your assignment is to just read something Tudor related. Now, technically, the events requirement is to indulge yourself in something Tudor, whether or not a book. I'm going to push the books. However, that said, if you're not yet a Tudor fan, which, let's face it, you're here, so that's unlikely, but even so, it is possible. If you are not yet a Tudor fan, you can kind of ease into the whole thing with one of the series. These have been pulling people in. Each generation seems to have its series that basically gets people excited about the Tudors. My own was the 6 Wives of Henry VIII and Elizabeth R. that the BBC originally came out with in the late 70s. Perfect. Absolute perfection. Keith Mitchell is Henry VIII. Glenda Jackson is Elizabeth. Truly, you cannot go wrong with that. For a bit of a younger crowd who wants to zhuzh it up a little bit more, there's the Tudors with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and his crazy eyes, and that's okay. It's a little bit annoying in a bunch of parts. They don't really age him, and to preserve a lot of the story, they conflate characters. They tend to do that. So Henry had one sister, Mary Margaret, instead of 2, and I'm still not really sure in the show who Mary Margaret was married to, because Henry's real sister Mary was briefly married to the King of France. His sister Margaret was married to the King of Scotland. So I don't remember exactly how they resolved that, but they just did that. But still a fun one. It'll get you into it. Spoiler alert on that one, the Cromwell execution scene still haunts me. And I am a person who has written execution scene. That one still gets me. So worry about that one. And finally, Wolf Hall, based on Hilary Mantel's trilogy. A lot of people. This is a little bit more limited. It's just really largely about Thomas Cromwell, Anne Boleyn, that whole era. But you know, in terms of pulling you in, it'll do the trick. I do think the books are better. I do. If you are going to go for the books, most people, you can never go wrong going with the first book, and it is the one that most people prefer. But I do have to give a shout out to the extraordinary job she did killing Cromwell off. It is not easy to kill off somebody in whose point of view you are writing, and that just is the perfect cap to a really great book. So anyway, that kind of gets into the whole, if you are a Tudor fan and you are going to be reading Wolf Hall, read Wolf Hall, but really pick a book. Basically pick an old favorite, pick a new one. It doesn't have to cost anything. Go to your library. They usually have Tudor books. There's usually not a run on them. They have like a nice steady checking out. But you should be able to find one, and that won't cost you anything. And if they don't have it, request. Go ahead and request. It is a wonderful thing. I am very grateful to all the people who have requested mine. I love when they do that. Other crazy suggestions, just because I've come across these things and I want to make sure you have them. There are a lot of public domain things that you can just go and swim around and have a lot of fun with. You can start slow, practical. There's Tudor cookbooks like The Good Housewife's Jewel. And you might want to, I don't know, try making, you're reading the recipe and then making something. A lot of the stuff is not easy to translate because they kind of assume that you know a lot about what you're doing, and so, but it's fun. If you like crime novels, Cobbetts State Trials. You kind of get like a little short story about all of the stuff surrounding trials for high treason, which that is a fun one. Letter collections are some of my favorites, and Internet Archives has some good ones. I will be leaving links to all of these. The one that came in mind that I came across the other day is they have a collection of Amyas Paulet's letters from the time that he was Mary Queen of Scots' jailer. And if you are a fan of Mary Queen of Scots, or you really are interested in her story, that is kind of a fun thing to do. You can skip ahead because a lot of it can get a little bit tedious, but the end is the wild part, because it has the suggestion. There was a point at which Elizabeth did not want to sign her cousin's death warrant. She did not want to execute her cousin publicly, and actually had Francis Walsingham suggest to Amyas Paulet that he might poison her, or push her downstairs, or do something so that Elizabeth would not have to be condemned by the world for killing her cousin. And we get Amyas Paulet's reply, which was one of those, God forbid that I should make such a shipwreck of my conscience as to kill someone when there is no warrant or deed. And that didn't really go over well, but that was a fun one, as well as the periodical, you are burning my letters, right? In fact, they did not. So we still have them. That's a fun thing to read. If you want more of an overview, you can go for a bunch of the chronicles and histories of the day. Edward VI wrote a diary. You can read that. That one, it's a little bit dry like him, but it is interesting to see and experience the dryness. He's got one line that is always talked about from this diary, where he makes note of the execution of his uncle, and it just says the Duke of Somerset had his head cut off on Tower Hill at 9 o'clock this morning, period. Now, believe it or not, I see a lot more emotion in there than most people do, but you kind of have to build it in because it's not actually on the page. But it's a fun read. Hall's Chronicle, which it starts with Henry IV, it goes all the way through Henry VIII. That really covers a lot of the spectacle and the events and those kind of things, and it's actually fun to just, you know, if you want to just lose yourself among like banners flying and, you know, find out that you had jugglers. It's a fun one. And then The Life and Death of Cardinal Thomas Wolsey by George Cavendish is a really well done. Cardinal Wolsey was really central to the early part of Henry's reign, and it was his fall that set the stage for the rise of Thomas Cromwell, for the rise of Anne Boleyn, for that whole era. And George Cavendish was in a perfect position to really know about it, write about it, and he does it really well. That's a fun one. Or the Spanish Chronicle. It is highly entertaining, incredibly wrong. It makes really large mistakes. And when I say that, it's not a question of interpretation, it's a question of they get things out of order. They had the Pilgrimage of Grace occurring at the beginning of Henry's relationship with Anne Boleyn, as opposed to Jane Seymour. They got his fourth and fifth wife out of order. They had him marry Catherine Howard before he married Anne of Cleves. So it's wrong. But it's one of those things that is so wrong that it's almost right, and it's just, you want to read it just for the craziness of it. And for those diehards who are still here, I'd like to offer up the French version of the Spanish Chronicle. A few years ago, I translated a crazy 19th century French biography of Henry VIII's marriages. And it's not quite as inaccurate as the Spanish Chronicle, but it projects a lot of 19th century views, and it tells us more about the 19th century than it does about the Tudor era. There's an itinerant gypsy running around telling fortunes in one of them, and it's a fun read. Let me know if you want to read it. I would be happy to send you an ebook of it, and then we can share our outrage over just how crazy it actually could be. But I'm happy to send that to you as well. Welcome again to Tudortember. Let me know what your plans are, and I hope to see you again. Thanks.